Oh, and something I forgot to mention is that on the way to the machine world, Neo and Trinity actually crashed the ship, which resulted in Trinity's death. Also, just before this had happened, Neo had been blinded by Smith, who has transferred his consciousness into the brain of Bane, which we saw in the Matrix Reloaded and in the video game. And before we actually see Neo reach his destination to the Machine City, before we get to see any of that and the fight scene at the end, we have to sit through a grueling 40 minutes of the War on Zion scene where all the Sentinels are attacking Zion. And once again, it's just, you've got about 40 minutes where Neo isn't on screen, where none of the main characters are on screen. You're watching all these side characters fight a war that really, you could have just shown a couple of minutes. Now, once again, like I said, I understand you have to show the war, you have to show what's at risk, what the people are fighting for, but come on, I mean, 40 minutes without any of the main characters. I mean, you do see Morpheus in these scenes when he's helping Niobe flee the Sentinels in the hovercraft. You see him basically reduced to a side character though. He doesn't play any kind of important part in this part of the movie. And when he does actually make it to Zion, all he really gets is a few lines of boring exposition and stirring up at the cavern walls in Zion, looking at the Sentinels. That's basically it. He's just totally reduced to this boring side character at the end of the film, and I cannot understand why they did that with him. Now, I'm not sure whether I'm the only one who shares this opinion. Maybe you guys feel differently. This is just my opinion and just what I thought of it. Anyway, after about 40 minutes of this, we get back to Neo and we get to see the finale of the film where Neo goes up against Smith. When Neo is returned to the Matrix, of course his eyes are fine in the simulation. The Matrix has been totally taken over by Smith. He's absolutely everywhere. In the streets, in the buildings, he's everywhere. But he states that he knows the outcome of the fight. He saw it in a vision, so all the other Smiths are just going to watch the fight. The reason Smith can see the future is due to him taking over the Oracle's body. Also worth mentioning is that the actress Gloria Foster, who played the Oracle in The Matrix 1 and 2, sadly passed away before she filmed her parts for the third movie, and she was replaced by actress Mary Alice. The character in the movie actually commented on her appearance. In the movie, it was explained that the Merovingian had destroyed her outer shell. And I actually thought this was a really clever way to acknowledge the difference in the woman's appearance and the Oracle's appearance. I thought that was really well done instead of just ignoring it and acting like nothing was different. Anyway, back to the fight. Neo and Smith start to have this massive, epic fight. They both fly around the city, beating the hell out of each other like two Supermen. In fact, I remember watching this scene at the cinema and thinking it looked really good. The CGI flight scenes looked just perfect. And I just remember thinking, how cool would these effects look in a Superman movie now? I think at the time we'd only had the Christopher Reeve Superman films and we'd had the TV series, but we'd had nothing with this amount of CGI added into it. I mean, we got the Return of Superman, but it was Superman, the Man of Steel in 2013 was the film I was waiting for ever since I saw this scene. Anyway, let's get back to the finale of the Matrix films. So Neo and Smith are having this epic fight. They are absolutely destroying everything in sight. I think Neo realises at some point that they are quite equally matched. Smith is just as strong as Neo now, and Neo's just as strong as Smith. They're equal, and Neo isn't going to win in a fight, and Smith isn't going to win in a fight. They could just go on forever. And then eventually Neo realises that the only way to beat Smith is to let Smith copy over him. So Smith does a thing where he sticks his hand into Neo's chest and he copies over Neo. And it would appear that Smith has won and Neo has lost. But in fact, this is the only way Neo could have won because Neo made the choice. He remembered a clue left for him by the Oracle where she said he would have to make a choice in the end. So he made the choice to die and let Smith take over his body. But Neo was a kind of antivirus which cancelled out all the other Smiths. And they kind of all exploded and the Matrix was saved. I think the machine world actually sent a surge of energy through Neo's body, which helped that happen as well. And ultimately, Neo won. And you see him back in the machine world being unplugged from the Matrix and carted away to wherever they're taking him. And it would seem that the machine world kept the promise as well, because back in Zion, all the machines that lay dormant whilst Neo fought all reactivate and move out of Zion and go back up to the machine world, leaving Zion alone. And so Zion is saved, the Matrix is reset, and any humans who don't want to be part of it any longer are apparently freed. And then the credits roll. Now, as a final thought, I really do like the two sequels. I really do like how they built the story around everything, how they included it in the video games, how they included it in the Animatrix. What I don't really like is how separate it feels compared to the original movie. I wasn't keen on how they went heavily on all the CGI. Some of the fights, especially the Burly Brawl, looked too fake, even though I did enjoy that scene. It did look fake. But I think for me the best fight scene in the sequels was the Chateau Stairway fight scene. It was a lot of practical stunts and there was a lot of wire stunts done as well, and it just worked and it looked great. However, ultimately, when you compare these fight scenes to the first movie, I think the first wins in every way, every time. For example, when you watch the fight scene in the first movie, there was blood, there was pain, there was a feeling of hopelessness when going up against agents. I love the way clouds of dirt and dust would fly off the bodies as punches and kicks made impact, and just a desperation you felt from the characters to actually stay alive in this world. But then when you got to the sequels, it just felt too clean and too fluid. But that can also be a compliment, I suppose. The fight scenes were insanely well done in the sequels. As you can probably tell, I'm conflicted. I think in the end, I liked everything about the Matrix franchise. The movies, the Animatrix, the game. Yes, the first Matrix is no doubt the absolute best of the trilogy, but on the whole, I do love the whole package. And so now we come to the end of our episode. I think it's time for me to disconnect from the Matrix, and I'll see you next time. You take care. Bye bye.